In this part of the presentation, I'm going to talk to you guys about what the type of texts that are typically used when we're studying social studies. What we usually end up seeing with these text types are the informational or expository types of writing, like textbooks, for examples. Some I have shared here are Ancient Civilizations and The American Journey. Both show different types of ways to study history and two types of history. We also see some biographies. My students really like the Who Was series, so I haven't included the Abraham Lincoln Who Was. But something that teachers might not always remember to keep in mind is realistic or historical fiction. These are great because it allows students to study fiction and the topic that they're studying in their class all at the same time. And one more thing that we don't always remember is photographs and audio clips. Even though they're not strictly text or including words, they still have a really important piece of information to share with our learners. Another thing we can look at when we are talking about social studies text is text features. These are really seen in our informational texts. Things like photographs, captions, forward, afterwards, graphics, charts. These are all things that will enhance our students' learning and can really be considered a type of text. Timelines are very much something that are part visual, part text, and put them together. They're a great aid for our students as they start learning. Jennifer Altieri found these types of text features to be extremely beneficial when she was teaching them with her students. Teachers don't always typically think of these as texts because they don't always have something to do with words, but photographs, graphics, all these good things put together can enhance student learning when we're talking about content area literacy. So how can we really use these text types? As I found on the Stanford History Education website, it was a poster of Abraham Lincoln talking to some soldiers during the Civil War, and this was actually being used for close reading activity. Kind of outside the box to use a visual of some sort for close reading, but it was a great way to have students think about these texts in a different way and really analyze and evaluate the history that they're learning through this visual aid. So what do we actually see in classrooms? Generally, we're going to see expository text being used in a social studies classroom, but it's really the job of the teacher to take it a step further and expose the students to a more diverse look at text in a content area. As shown in the last slide, you see an opportunity for creativity, but then you see this figure here. It depicts percentages of types of text used, and it's shockingly undiversified. There's 81% of the time students are only being exposed to expository texts, while 19% of the time they're looking at any of those other ones that we talked about, that historical fiction, biographies, primary sources, all of those things really aren't being used all that much. So as teachers examine their instruction, they should really keep in mind the different types of text that they can be using as they teach. Later in the presentation, we're going to be talking about how the literacy coach might be able to help, and this could be a great way that they could be helping out those content area teachers, really digging into those types of texts that they could be using.